Every now and then, something comes along that is exactly what you need at a certain point in your life. For me, one of those things was the HoverAir X1 drone that was released in 2023. It was a tiny drone that could fit in my pocket and with a few button taps would follow me around whilst I was on my bike. Before getting the Hover X1, I'd have to ride around on my electric unicycle and film someone else riding the bike. I'd even attached cameras to my son's bike so he could film me. With the Hover X1, I didn't need to do that. Unfortunately though, it wouldn't follow me sideways, only in front of me and behind. For sideways shots, I still relied on my DJI Mini 3 Pro and a 360 camera. But the 360 camera always looked a bit weird, and the Mini 3 Pro was big and it took a while to set up. It didn't have sideways collision detection, and eventually it crashed into a lamppost, and it's still out of action. But maybe a week after that, 00 Robotics, the makers of the HoverAir X1, released a firmware update that allowed it to track me from the side. This was an absolute game changer for me. Pretty soon I was filming all my action shots using that one drone, but it wasn't without its drawbacks.
I couldn't use it very much on a windy day. It struggled in the wind. I couldn't really go anywhere approaching 15 miles an hour, otherwise it would go up in the air and lose me. And the camera quality, although it's 2.7K, which is absolutely fine, it's got a small sensor and it wasn't the best, but it's just about passable for the shots that I needed.
Enter the HoverAir X1 Pro Max. I guess they really wanted to keep the X1 bit.
So as you can see, it is a bit bigger, it is a bit heavier, but it is still below that magic number, 250 grams, which means it's allowed to go near people and stuff like that. But the great thing about these drones in general is that it's fully covered in this amazing material. They've upgraded the material. The old drone, I've crashed it so many times, and it just gets up and it carries on. In fact, a dog bit it out of the air once. Sadly, it got it from behind, so we didn't see the dog. And I've crashed it into myself. I've crashed it into lampposts. This one I haven't crashed yet. It appears to be much better at following than the other one.
But finally, 00 have created the perfect creation tool for someone like me who makes videos about e-bikes. It does everything the last drone did: orbit, bird's eye, zooming in and out, tripod mode, which is invaluable, rear follow, dolly track.
Now it's got a camera behind, so there's a tree. So I'm going to walk towards the tree and see how it deals with that. Although it's just missed the tree, so it's fine. But how many times, if you're just like a presenter and you need to walk towards something, do you have this situation where you just need a camera to go behind you and you don't need a cameraman?
And side follow, which is the most important thing for what I do. To use any of these, you simply turn on the drone, cycle to the mode you need, which is displayed on the screen now, press the launch button and let it take off from your palm. When you want it back, you simply either let it run its course, if it was doing one orbit for example, or you can hold out your hand and it will come back to you. It's that simple. The Pro Max now has a 1/1.3 inch CMOS sensor, which is why it can capture much better quality video than the HoverAir X1 could, and it's exactly what I needed. Yes, the Hover X1 did 2.7K, which is fine as a resolution, but because it had a smaller sensor, it was never quite as good as I would have liked. However, it is still great for fun videos, and it did give good footage on sunny days. The Pro Max also has 64GB of internal storage, which is loads for what I do, but if you need more, you can extend it further with an SD card. Using the app, each mode has various options too. For example, HDR. The drone can shoot 8K now. It can do vertical mode, slow motion, which works in 4K and captures video at 120 frames per second, but then slows it down by 4 times to give a video that is running at 30 frames per second. It has a photo mode that takes pictures up to 48 megapixels, more on this later, and you can also adjust how the drone flies. For example, the height on the bird's eye mode, the diameter of the circle and orbit mode, and the height at which it follows you on all the follow modes. It is a bit heavier than the HoverAir X1 at 192 grams, but it's still well under the 250 gram limit, which would prevent you from flying it near people. By the way, yes, it's in a cage and it isn't going to hurt anyone, and that cage, by the way, is almost indestructible, but you could still annoy people and scare old ladies with it, so I still wouldn't recommend you flying this around people. But that extra size is mainly due to its extra strength. It can now follow up to 26 miles per hour, and it works a lot better in the wind. I was pretty much out of action on windy days before, but not anymore. It's way better. Also, the battery is stronger. It lasts over 16 minutes now, whereas before it was more like 12. The image stabilization is also much improved.
And the great thing about this one, another improvement, now I had no problem whatsoever with the image stabilization of the other one. The other one had one axis stabilization, I think. Yeah, just that, plus electronic stabilization, whereas this one has got two axis, I believe, because it can go that way and that way, so it's even better on this one. So that's why as well, it's better in the wind because it's got more power, but it's also more stable in the wind as well.
Just like before, the drone also has the ability to remove the sound of the drone itself from the video, but this time there are two levels of removal, since when the drone noise is fully removed it can sound a bit unnatural. Here's me talking with standard noise reduction.
And now I can see a microphone, so it should be recording my voice through here, and through AI jiggery pokery, it can actually remove the sound of the drone.
And now here's me talking with full noise reduction.
I'm on a sideways dolly track. This is 8K normal shooting.
Now what you can do to make it a bit more natural is record some of the background when you're there and then splice it over the top, and if you do that it sounds a bit like this.
Now I can see the drone tilting forward and backwards. I don't think it likes me going this slow, to be honest.
And I think that sounds quite a bit better. Now, I do like the audio feature, although it's not essential for me, but if it works a bit better, I think I'd use it all the time. For example, I like to plug a lav mic into my phone to get better sound quality, and I did think that when you're using a lav mic, you could turn your phone screen off and put it away, even though it does say keep your phone screen on.
I know that if I turn that off, so my phone's off now, it will actually still carry on recording.
So that brings us nicely on to some of the drawbacks that, if fixed, could make this drone truly perfect. Having to use my phone and keep the screen on is too much of a faff. I think you should be able to decide whether you want sound recorded and not to have to touch your phone at all. Sound recording failed too often for me on the HoverAir X1, and it doesn't seem to be improved on the Pro Max. However, I do like the ability to be able to press the microphone button to turn it on afterwards. When taking photos, you have the option of standard and high resolution, which I guess are 12 megapixel and 48 megapixel shots. Even in high resolution, I'd describe the photos as okay. They're like an early high resolution digital camera. Also, there doesn't seem to be that much control over the pictures. They're mainly on the modes such as orbit, zoom out and bird's eye. So it'll basically zoom out, take a picture and then come back in again. I would have liked to be able to have my phone out and take a picture whenever I wanted. When landing on my palm, the drone seems to glitch and get an extra blast of propeller power, something the HoverAir X1 didn't do. It's usually fine, it just startles me sometimes, but a few days ago it actually jumped out of my hand and spun onto the road. Luckily it's a closed road on my great uncle's estate, but if it happened on a normal road the drone could have been squished. The battery was knocked out of the drone, perhaps a little too easily, and now it has its first battle scar.
It's stopped now. It does that little thing as well.
Another issue is that the internal clock of the drone is oddly synced and I can't find a way to change it. This means that when I download the footage onto my phone, it's with videos that I shot maybe a day ago, which is a bit annoying. The good news is that I'm sure that most of these things can be fixed with firmware updates, and it might even be that as you're watching this video, they've already been sorted. As I write this, they've already fixed an issue where in bright scenes, the camera would overexpose. The HoverAir X1 never had the last two issues, but since the audio issues have always been there, I probably wouldn't hold your breath for that one to get sorted. But I really would like them to sort these syncing issues because sometimes the audio goes out of sync. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is accessories, of which there are many. I don't actually use most of them as I don't need them, but one thing I do love is the charge case. If you buy the base pack, the drone comes with a 65-watt charger, 2 batteries, and a very nice standard case. Something they did send to me was this charge case, which is extremely handy.
When I'm done with this, I can just pop it in the charge case. It's got this little adapter here, and it comes with 2 of them. And that's actually inside the case. You stick it in there, you just drop it into this very nice case. Make sure it lines up, drop it in, close it. There you go, it's got a little display.
You can also use a beacon to both improve the tracking, not that it needs it, and it also allows you to see through the drone's camera. To this, you can attach a joystick, which allows you to use the Pro Max as a normal drone, and it even works with your phone too, just like a standard camera drone. The last accessory I'll mention are the ND filters. These can really take your videos to the next level if it's the kind of thing you need. They work by slotting over the drone's camera, and they decrease the amount of light getting into the camera. By selecting the appropriate setting in the app, the drone's shutter speed will decrease in order to get more light back into the sensor. The slowest shutter speed creates a motion blur in the background whilst keeping the main subject focused. Some people don't really notice it and some people love it. I won't tell you what's better, but the fact that it can do it is pretty cool. I think if you want to see it, the best thing to look at in this video are the spokes of the wheels and the marks on the curb in the background. It's harder to see on slow moving objects like myself and things further in the distance. I'll be keeping the ND8 filter on for my next video to see how it goes, as before this test I hadn't used any of them. I said those ND filters were pretty cool, but on the whole pretty cool is a massive underplaying of how good this drone really is. It is the perfect device for the lone ranger of content creation. I mean anyone who doesn't have access to a friend with no life or a film crew, or anyone who just wants the freedom to go and get the shots you need whenever you need. The cliche is that the best camera is the one that you have with you, and this camera can always be with you and used at a moment's notice. With the Pro Max, it can now take on wind, just about keep up with Usain Bolt, and produce footage of a much higher quality. It really is the exact device I needed for my YouTube channel. I'd love you to share in the comments what you'd use this drone for, whether it be for content creation or just for fun. There are links to the drone down below. They're not affiliate links, so I'm not getting any sort of commission if you buy it. They're just a product that I can wholeheartedly recommend, and if mine broke, I'd certainly buy it again, but I really don't expect that to happen for a very long time. If you enjoyed or got something from this video, please do hit that like button, but if you hated it, give us a thumbs down and tell us why. And if you got any questions, because I'm sure I've missed a lot of stuff because there's a lot to this drone, do ask in the comments. And until next time, thanks for watching and fly safe.